Yes, yeah. So we welcome all of you. We welcome our friends online watching us wherever they are. We thank you so much for your faithfulness, and we thank you everyone for coming here in the auditorium. So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
So yeah. So last Sunday I shared with you this from the book of Joshua. Be strong and be very courageous. That was on the first chapter of the book with his name on it. And then today I'll preach to you on the last chapter, chapter 24 of the book of Joshua. So the book of Joshua is a historical record of the conquest of Canaan. For 680 years, God has promised from Abraham that He will give them the promised land. But as we know the story, they ended up in Egypt, and for 400 years in Egypt, they were slaves to the Pharaoh. And then Joshua was born during the time of their slavery in Egypt. And then on this event, they crossed the river Jordan, and they were right there physically, or right there in the promised land, the land that God said is flowing with milk and honey. So flowing with milk and honey is just saying that it is a prosperous country. It is a land where I'm bringing you. It's going to be yours. It's going to be yours, and that's where you're going to raise your children. That's where you're going to worship me. And then he gave them a lot of promises that Joshua was rehearsing to them. The chapter 24, I just have the two verses, our main text this afternoon, 14 and 15. But chapter 1, just to give you a background, Joshua is rehearsing to the people. He is reminding the people, the God of your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, okay, who walked with God and who obeyed God. He gave them a promise, and then he rehearsed on how they have seen with their own eyes on how God delivered them from slavery in the land of Egypt. Signs and wonders that have never been seen ever since God created the heavens and the earth. And Joshua is telling them that God has blessed you with many of His favor and blessing, and every good thing that God has for His people, He has given them. And I will read you some of them as we go on. So, in this chapter, we see that Joshua died at the age of 110. Up of 110. So, these are the words of a dying person. And we know that they said that when a person is dying or near the end of their life, their last words mean a lot. They don't tell jokes. They don't tell silly things. They don't tell things that are nonsense. Okay, when a person is dying, they're only talking about what is important. Okay, because they know that their life on earth is not that much. So when a person is dying or near the end of their life, their last words mean a lot. Usually there is complete truth and honesty, because there is nothing left to lose at this point. This usually gives people the freedom to say what is really and truly on their hearts. In fact, if a person is on their deathbed, yung mamamatay na, the words they speak are deemed or considered to be so honest that they can even be used in court, something known as a dying declaration. So this brings us to the words of Joshua found in chapter 24, the last chapter, where Joshua is making his dying declaration. And in verse 14 and 15, this is what it says. Now therefore, after he gave them the history of why they're there and the goodness of God, the miracles of God, and how they were chosen by God, beginning from Abraham, he tells them now therefore fear the Lord, respect Him, revere Him, serve Him in sincerity and in truth. So what he is saying, be committed to Him. Love Him with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul. There is no room for a divided heart or a divided service. That's why He says, serve Him in sincerity and in truth, and put away the gods which your father served on the other side of the river, and in Egypt serve the Lord. Because people can be torn between two lovers. They know that there is a true God. They have seen it. They know that God is real. It appeared to Moses. It spoke to Abraham, and they have written words of the covenants of God. And yet, in the heart of people, there is always an idol. Okay, there is always an idol. That's why here is telling them, get rid. Put away the gods which your father served on the other side of the river in Egypt. If you remember, back in the time of Moses, in the book of Exodus, Moses went to the mountain because God told him, come up to the mountain and I will give you the 10 commandments. And it took Moses about 40 days in the mountain. So Aaron, his older brother, and their sister Miriam, and the rest of the people says, we don't know what happened to him. It's been a while now since he's up there in the mountain. Let's forget about this, Moses. You give us create us or mold us a God. This is Aaron. These are the people. It says, no, let's make an idol. It says they collected their earrings, their necklaces, their bracelets, their golds, and then they mold a cow, a golden cow. Can you imagine? Moses was not away for about 3 months, and they are already what? They are already corrupting themselves by worshiping an idol. This is the God. This is the cow. This is the God who brought us out of Egypt. Isn't that insane sometimes? And it's crazy. Something that has no life in it. Okay? It's something that has not done anything for them. And they are what? Ready to worship it. That's why Joshua is reminding them, put away the gods. You cannot serve God. And at the same time, you have an idol. Okay, you cannot serve two gods. So Jesus Christ said you cannot serve God and Mammon. So continue on to say, it says, and if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, kung masama pakiramdam ninyo na paglingkuran ng Diyos, and if it seems evil to you to serve the Lord, choose for yourselves, mamili kayo, this day whom you will serve. Okay? Whether the gods which your father served that were on the other side of the river, or the gods of the Amorites. The Amorites are one of those nations that are there in Canaan. Okay? In whose land you dwell. Andun na sila. But look at this declaration. But as for me, in my house, we will serve the Lord. You can have your own opinion about God. You can serve whoever you want to serve. But as for me, Joshua is saying, in fact, as I mentioned to you last Sunday, Joshua is the Hebrew name for Jesus. Yeshua. Joshua means Yahweh is my salvation. Ang Panginoon ang aking tagapagligtas. And Jesus, that's the Aramaic name of Joshua. But anyway, he said, but as for me in my house, so he's saying that ako at ang aking mga anak at ang aking asawa, we will serve the Lord. It is something that He speaks, that He can declare to them, that I am not even hesitating to tell this to you. I've known my God. I've known Him since I was little. I've known Him. I've seen Him on how He moves in our behalf back there in the land of Egypt. So, but I am not going to be affected by whatever opinion you're going to have. If you want to serve your own gods, you go ahead. But as for me and my family, we will serve the living God. This is one of the first songs. I don't know if some of you grew up in church. This is one of the few songs that I learned when I first attend Bible studies. Okay, this is a kid's song actually. Okay, I have decided to follow Jesus. You remember that?
Yes.
No turning back. No turning back. Hindi alam niya ganun. And then the second stanza says, "Though no one go with me, I still will follow." You know, when I said that, when Joshua said, "You choose this day whom you will serve, but as for me We are fixed, we are firm, we are determined, we're going to be faithful to our God who delivered us from that land of slavery, from the land of Egypt. So there will be time in our lives, in our Christian life, especially us. Most of us in this church, I was just talking to a friend. He says, do you have a lot of young people? I'm looking at them. Do you have a lot of young people in your church? I would say, not much. My daughter and some other ones who comes, but most of us are what? We are so close to what? Social security check. We are so close in being a member of APLAC. or the other one is AARP. Okay, I'm a member of that. I'm a proud member of that. So, but what's saying? Most of us are this. So how are we? And we are praying. We never stop praying that soon we're gonna have young people, youth in our group. Okay, but then most of us are in the prime of our lives, 40 and above. Okay, and that's what. And we know that there should come a time in our lives, especially as Christians, that at this time in our lives, we are no longer hesitating or double-minded about who we're really going to serve. Am I just attending there because my family is attending there, or my friend is attending there, or I don't want to be hit by a lightning, so probably one Sunday I need to come to church? No, there should be a time in your life that you can say with Joshua, but as for me, regardless, okay, my friends, my own family may decide one of these days they don't want to love the Lord anymore. But that is their choice. But me, we are individuals who have that gift that God has given us, the free will to make a choice. Okay, and then like I said, that there will be a time that you're gonna be your faith, you and God. There will be times in your life that's the only thing that will be left.
Yes.
The people that you look up to, even your pastor or even the person who invited you to church, will be gone. Okay? But what about you? Some people they come, hey pastor, I've been in the ministry for so many years, and I heard this like, pastor, how come that he or they are no longer attending church? And sometimes I don't have answers. Because some people they come and go, and that's how it is. People just come in and go, but those who remain, those are the ones that God has given us or that God has entrusted to us. But then it breaks your heart every time there is a separation. It breaks your heart, especially relationship. But look at this. This happened to the Lord Jesus Christ Himself. Okay, He was telling them hard sayings. In verse 65 of this chapter, it tells them, "No one can come to me except the Father draws him to me." And with that saying, they were offended. No, look at the reaction. Because sometimes when you're reading the Bible, you find here words and commands. Sometimes that does not connect with what you are planning in life. Okay, so it's what you are planning in life. So the same thing with these disciples. Remember, it's not only the 12. He's got more than 12. The Bible tells us in Luke chapter 10 that there are 70 disciples or 120 disciples that He sent out. And there are much more, but the 12 are the core. Those are the apostles, the core group that He has chosen for Himself. Okay, but there are a lot more that are called disciples. So He says in 66, from that time on, many of His disciples turned back and no longer with Him, and no longer walk with Him. Can you imagine? This is Jesus Christ Himself. He's losing members. Okay, He is losing some of the people because they get offended on what He said. So Jesus asked the 12. Now the 12, okay, they stayed. These are the ones that He has chosen to be His close friends. So Jesus asked the 12, "Do you want to live also? Iiwanan niyo ba ako?" Sabi ng Panginoon. And look at that Simon. We know that Simon Peter, most of the times in the Bible, you will see that before he thinks, he talks first. Okay, many times. If you remember when Jesus Christ was washing their feet, okay, and the washing of the feet is the lowest work of a slave. If there are 4 slaves in a house, okay, There is a slave that probably take care of the children. There is a slave that takes care of the food, and there's a slave probably that manages the business of the master. But the lowest among the slaves is the one who washes the feet of the guest, of the visitors that comes into the house. So can you imagine Jesus Christ, their Lord, took a basin and wrapped a towel on his waist and then started washing their feet. And then Peter said, "Not me, Lord. You're not going to wash my feet." And Jesus Christ told him, because he doesn't process it here. So as it comes here, very impulsive. When it comes here, he blurted it out in his mouth. So he says, "No, Lord, no." And Jesus Christ told him, "If I'm not going to wash your feet, you have no part for me." And you know what Peter said? "Lord, please, wash my whole body." Paliguan mo ako, Panginoon. Huwag lang pa. And then many more. Who do you think I am? And then Peter said, "You are the Son, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God." And that was Peter. And then, when Jesus Christ says, "I'm going to Jerusalem, and they're going to crucify me," and Peter rebuked the Lord and says, "No, Lord, it will not happen to you." And then again, Jesus Christ rebuked him because he talks too much. And on and on. But on this part here, Simon Peter is to be commended. When Jesus Christ asked, "Do you want to live also? Iiwanan niyo ba ako?" Simon Peter replied, "Lord, to whom would we go? Kanino kami sasama?" Okay? You have the words of eternal life. So Lord, you can see here Peter saying, kanino? Kung tatalikod kami sa iyo, Panginoon, kanino kami pupunta? Sino sasambahin namin? Sino aasahan namin ng buhay na walang hanggan? So what he's saying, Lord, to whom would we go? You have the words of eternal life. So this is Jesus. Now look at St. Paul. Paul, when he wrote this to Timothy, he was about to be beheaded by as an execution. Okay, you're going to be beheaded as a punishment for his crime. And his crime is what? Preaching the gospel. And look what he says to Timothy. This is his dying days. He's an old man, he is in prison, and he knows he's about to be executed. And he's telling Timothy at that time, he's probably in his early 20s. Timothy. He said, "Be diligent to come to me quickly." Sabi niya, "Magmadali ka, puntahan mo ko rito sa may presuhan." For Demas, look at this. Probably Demas, we don't know much about him, but probably he used to be one of Paul's sidekick. No, one of those people who went with him in his missionary journey. For Demas as what? Has forsaken me. Tinalikuran niya ako. Having loved this person who then has departed for Thessalonica. Crescens for Galatia, Titus for Dalmatia. At the very time that Paul needs somebody to encourage him, to be there for him, because he is in prison and about to die in his old, in its winter time. How do I know it's winter time? If you're going to continue reading the chapter, he's telling Timothy, "Bring also my jacket, because it's very cold. And don't forget the Bible, my Bible, bring it here in his prison cell." But look at it, Demas has forsaken me. But you see, Paul never wavered. Now, there will be people in our life, sometimes they are sent by God just for a short time. Okay? If you remember your friends in high school or in college, where are they now? Kung walang Facebook, you cannot even trace where they are. Okay, some of them, especially ladies, women, you change your name, your last name. There is no telling. I have a lot of classmates in high school. If they will not gonna tell me their name during our elementary days, I will not remember them. Or some of them don't have any more hair. Some of them have all white hair. Okay, some of them have added weight into their body. Some of them have shrunk. So you cannot even recognize them. But they're all gone. And even in life, sometimes you have friends that only last for a few weeks. Okay? Some have stayed for many years. And some seems like they're going to be here forever. But no, people change and people has their own calling in life. So they go away. Okay? And the same thing did. Demas has forsaken me. So he's got his own choice. He want to depart from me. He has chosen the world. Doesn't want to serve the Lord anymore. But you can see Paul said earlier in this chapter, he says, "I fought the good fight of faith. I will go on. I will continue on. Regardless if I'm the only one who's going to be left." The last man standing, I was still, me and my wife most of the time, when we are talking about church, about our group, and this is me and my wife talking. So there are many times that we encourage ourselves, even though there is only one who will be coming here, and just the three of us or four of us, we will still continue the Bible study. We will not give up. And thank God that you are here. And there are so many else who were not able to come here. And that is because we've known the goodness of the Lord. We've experienced the goodness of the Lord. And we want to share that to other people and friends who God is bringing into our lives. But whatever it is, because the heart, the things that broke the heart or breaks the heart of a pastor, as a pastor, is when people are living. Some they have a reason for that, some they don't have any reason, some like Demas, they just want to forsake the Lord from their life. But it happens, and I'm telling you that because we have to have that resolve. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. Okay? And he is very determined and he is very fixed on that choice that him and his family will serve the Lord. In life, you see, in our Christian life, everyone must decide on their own. Nobody, our relationship with God, it is our own choice. Whether we're going to love Him and serve Him, it has nothing to do with our parents. Our parents may be godly people, okay, who love the Lord, who serve the Lord. But that's the choice that they made for themselves, okay? As children, or as grandparents, or as our parents, we have our choice to make. And the choice that we're going to make is on our own decision. That is the one. God does not coerce us, does not force us to accept Him or to believe on Him. But then He will present things in our lives that will convince us that it is better to love God than not to love Him at all. Okay? So you go to Joshua chapter 15, okay, this is His choice. But as for me, in my house, we will serve the Lord. We are not, we are living in a culture that say, Pastor Ed, the Bible is already an old-fashioned book. Okay, what the things that we learn from this Bible are old-fashioned. This is now the 21st century. A lot of things have changed. Okay, but our faith in God should not be based on what the culture believes, what the people, especially outside the church, believes, but we hang on to what God has said in His book, in the Bible. Okay, so like I said, it may contradict our plans in life, but then when we align it to the Word of God, to the promises of God, and in obedience to Him, then we are putting ourselves and our family in a better place. Another thing about the book of Joshua, if you read that in other books of the Bible, you will learn that miracles don't always touch the heart. No, miracles doesn't touch the heart. Look at what Joshua was telling them in verse 7, and these are the people back there in Egypt. He says, so they cried out to the Lord, and He put darkness between you and the Egyptians. That was one of the 10 plagues that God sent in Egypt, so that the Pharaoh will let them go. So they cried out to the Lord, and He put darkness between you and the Egyptians, brought the sea upon them. Okay? When you crossed the Red Sea, it was dry. But those Egyptians riding on chariots, when they tried to cross so that they can kill you, God put back the water and they all drowned. That's the miraculous. Okay? But you see, if you read the story in Exodus, as soon as they all crossed the river, the Red Sea, they murmured. Nagkukumpay na, umaangal na. Na umaangal sila. It is in our nature sometimes, rather than be thankful, we are prone to complain. You know what their first complaint? Moses, why did you bring us here? There's no food in here. We miss the cucumbers, the garlic, and the watermelon. They're in Egypt. God has just shown them a miracle that they had never seen before. Can you imagine? You are crossing the river, and there are 2 walls left and right, and those are water. And maybe Nemo is also there, waving at you. Okay? There's no Nemo there. But they've seen, look at what it says. They brought the sea and covered them, their enemies, and your eyes saw it. You saw the miracle. and your eyes saw what I did in Egypt, then you dwelt in the wilderness a long time, for 40 years. They were in the wilderness. God has provided to them free food. Okay, bread and quail and water, which is not very common in the desert place like there in the Middle East. But God provided them every day. They're just going to wake up and collect the bread. Okay, if they want water, they have water. If they want meat, they have quail. So those are just the few provisions of the Lord. Your eyes saw it. And then verse 13, I have given you a land. Look at this blessing and provisions. Okay, I have given you a land for which you did not labor. Meaning na meron ng mga tanim. There are already vegetation in it that you can harvest and that you can eat. He says, I have given you a land for which you did not labor, and cities which you did not build. Maayos na. And you dwell in them. You eat of the vineyards and olive groves which you did not plant. So they are well provided. Can you imagine that they are well provided? They've been slaves, so they know what a blessing this is that God has given them. And yet, they still worship idols. And yet, Joshua has to ask them, do you still want to serve those idols, or you want to serve the God who's been good to you? Look at all the miracles He done to you. He split the Red Sea. He killed all your enemies. He provided for you food. He protected you. And night and day, you have something to guide Him to protect you. And all of those good things. And yet, they are not what? They are not decided. They are hesitant to serve the Lord. Miracles doesn't touch the heart. Okay? Even if we see it, you can see a person dead and being raised to life. Okay? That's a spectacular thing. I haven't seen a dead one rising yet. But I've seen people who are about to die and God touched them and they live. Okay? I can give you their names if you want to. I've seen the miracles of God so many times in my life as a Christian. But the Bible tells us those miracles alone will not change a person. In fact, there was a person who promised me. He had what do you call this? Quadruple bypass, you know. And when they had just done it, and I was asking him, where did they took the tube or the vein to connect it? It says in my legs. They took some of the arteries in my legs and they connect. Am I right, Miss Ali? They connected it here. Okay. And he was promising me while he was there on the bed. He was promising, Pastor, as soon as gumaling ako dito, I will serve the Lord. Yun ang pangako niya kasi alam niya baka mamatay na siya doon. He said, I will serve the Lord. And then when he get out, after a few months, when he get out, he doesn't even attend church. Okay, so I said, that's why I said, and then there's another lady, a friend of ours, he was in a total wreck. His tiny car was run over by a semi. Somewhere here in 75, in I-75. She was almost dead. And again, at that time she was promising, as soon as I get well, I will serve the Lord. But no, it does not change the heart. Look at this. This is Jesus Christ's first miracle. Are you still there?
Amen.
Look at this is his first miracle that was recorded in John 7 where he turned water into wine in a wedding party. Now when Jesus was in Jerusalem at the Passover during the feast, many believed in His name when they saw the signs, they saw the miracle. Can you imagine? Water has been turned into wine and the taste was very good. Many believed in His name when they saw the signs, when they see the miracle, that it is spectacular. They believe in Him. They just believe because of the miracle which He did. But look at the response of Jesus. But Jesus did not commit Himself to them because He knew all men. They are there following Him just because of the miracles that they can receive. But other than that, no, they are not willing to sacrifice for Him and to sacrifice and give their lives for Him. That's why Jesus did not commit Himself to them because He knew all men. And look at 25. And had no need that anyone should testify of men, for He knew what was in men. Alam niya. God knows our heart. God sees us through and through. And is it sometimes interesting? God knows what you will decide on next week, even before you were born. He already knows that next week you will love Him, or next week you have nothing to do with Him. He already knows that. But for the meantime, He's still loving you. Okay, he doesn't say, oh, I know you're gonna do that next week. I knew you. So I might as well judge you now. Because I know next week you're gonna begin. Why wait for that week? He already knew that. But God in His goodness and mercy, He always gives us many chances. Hindi lang second chance. So He knew what was them. He did not commit because they are only after the miracle. They are not after the miracle worker. They are only after the healing and not the healer. They are only after the provision, but not the provider. Okay? And that is so true back then and even now. And look at this terrible warning from the Lord Himself. This is Jesus Christ talking that you will read in the book of Revelation, the last book of the Bible. Okay? Look at this. This message is from the one who stands firm. This is talking about Jesus Christ. The faithful and true witness of all that is, or was, or evermore shall be. The primal source of God's creation. That's Jesus Christ. And then He says to the church at Laodicea, I know you will. Kilala ko kayo. Sabi niya, you are neither hot nor cold. Hindi kayo malamig, hindi kayo mainit. I wish you were one or the other. But since you are merely lukewarm, alam niyo yung lukewarm sa Tagalog? Maligamgam. Maligamgam. Hindi mainit, hindi malamig. Ang sabi ni Jesus, I will spit you out of my mouth. Isusuka ko kayo. And as human, what are the things that you throw out when it's already in your mouth? And sometimes you just swallow it, right? like if you are eating something, let's say you are eating that you know it's expensive but it doesn't taste good. Sometimes you can, there is a steakhouse in downtown. The filet mignon, about this size, filet mignon, quarter pound, they charge you $65. My wife, when every time we're talking about that, let's just buy a cow. Can you imagine 65 ganito lang? And thinking that it is a very nice restaurant downtown. It's a very what they call the ambience of the place. It is so that's why they can charge you that much. But then when you taste it, it doesn't taste that good. And since you don't want to embarrass the person who's paying for your dinner, nilululun mo na rin. You see? Nilululun mo na rin. How is your steak? It's good. How you just wish you just eat the salad. And then they just give you the dressing that you don't like. Instead, but binayaran na, mahal na binayad eh. Nakatoga ka pa. See, and look at the people who are serving you there. Talaga naka-necktie din. Talaga, ang ganda ng lugar. So saying, but you cannot throw it out because it's expensive. But there are things that you cannot just swallow. And those things that are really bad in your taste. Talagang masama ang lasa eh. Di ba? Masama ang lasa. Nakatikim na kayo ng pansit na napanis? We used to come to a church and it's potluck. People bring in their dishes in the church. And there are Filipino dishes that are so quick to get spoiled. Like pansit. If you leave that pansit 5 minutes during the months of July and August in your trunk and you forgot to bring it in, ang ganda ng itsura nun, yung presentation, it can be very good. Okay? But when you taste it, wow, pansit. Ang lasa ay palpak. You just want to throw it out. Excuse me, you just want to go to the bathroom and puke and throw out because it is what? It's very offensive in your mouth, in your taste. And here, Jesus Christ is saying, if you are lukewarm, you are neither cold nor hot, I will puke you out, I will spit you out of my mouth. So God wants us, if we are hot for the Lord, let's remain hot. Okay? If we are praising for the Lord, let's go. Be praising for the Lord, but nothing in between, not lukewarm. And there's so many people who are just lukewarm. That's why when their faith are tested, they can easily give up, or they don't want to serve, or they always say what? They always have bad impression of the church because their heart is not there. See, their heart is not there. So I know you will. God knows as well. God knows those who are just pretending and who are just there. But also God knows those are really for Him. Whatever happens, these people will remain faithful to me. Whatever happens. Okay? Regardless of what they go through. in life, the testings that they go through, like, I will be faithful. Okay? And then the third, God's blessing. Okay? Past blessing does not automatically mean continued blessing. Okay? If you're gonna just give about an hour or 2 hours in your life, just think of how good God has been in your life, in your family. You will see that there are a lot of times in your life you just want to give up. Okay? Sometimes my wife will tell me, had I not been a born-again believer, if I don't have any relationship with God, manuloka na ako. Hindi ako ang dahilan. Siyang papagkaloka niya. Ba't ang yan? Kayo naman, nakatingin naman kayo sa akin. Kawa tayo. What she was just telling me, she was orphan. When she was just probably, 11, 12 years old? 15. Meaning, both of her parents died at that age, and they were 7 or 8 of them. And it's not easy. If you are rich and you are orphan, probably life will not be as bad, okay, as challenging, because you have money as an inheritance. But if you don't have any of those at that age, and you have other siblings that they don't have much to depend on, it is at the trying times. And things had I not known God until now, even at this age, and so we still go through. We are just like you, we are just human beings. Okay? We still go through to a lot of things, and many times she will just say, kung di ko nakilala Panginoon, wala na, lokarit na ako. Naiisip ko tuloy na nakakita na ako ng mga lokarit eh. Have you seen people who have gone out of their mind? I've seen people like that. It's a terrible thing. Minsan, huwag naman sana. So, and then she keeps on coming back. It's good the Lord is with us. He's the one who gives us sanity. Okay, when everything else is getting crazy, He's the one giving us strength, even though things like this are happening and on, even in your life, you can say, God has been so good to you. How many times in your life you went to a problem and you think that that's it? There is no more solution to this. This is it. We're going to give up. But you are here now because God has been good to you. Yeah, you still have problems, but then you see how God has brought you through a lot of those things. That's why you are still here. But then, past blessing does not automatically mean continued blessing. Okay? So look at this. All of the promises in God for us as children are all conditional. The blessings of God on your life is conditional. The true secret to continued blessing is obedience. You can go all through the Bible, and there they said there are more than 3,000 promises of God from the Old Testament to the New. Okay, that are written here, that are for His children, and I believe there are much more. Almost all of them are conditional. Meaning is, if you want to receive, the condition is what? You ask. You pray. You want to receive anything from God. It will not just drop on your lap, out from your ceiling. You have to what? You have to ask. You have to pray. The condition for receiving is what? Asking. And then if you want to find some guidance from the Lord, to find some strength from the Lord, what is the condition? You seek. You seek God. And then if you want the doors of opportunities and God's goodness to be opened in your behalf, you have to knock. So that means that there must be a perseverance on your part before you're going to get. If you want to be saved, salvation is already provided for us through Jesus Christ. If you want to be saved, then you have to believe. You have to put your faith in Christ, because salvation does not happen because Jesus Christ did that. That is the blessing, that is the provision. But in our part, we have to, the condition is, if you believe. Okay? So look at the Deuteronomy. I encourage you to read the whole chapter. God gave them a promise when they obey, and also curses, sumpa, when they disobey. Look at verse 1 and 2. Now it shall come to pass, if you diligently obey, not just half-heartedly, diligently obey the voice of the Lord your God, to observe carefully all His commandments which I command you today, that the Lord your God will set you high above all nations of the earth. Okay, this is also where you find you will be the head and not the tail. You will be the one lending and not the one borrowing. Those are one of the blessings of God. Okay, so sabi niya, that the Lord your God will set you high above all nations of the earth. You will be highly favored. I remember every time we drop our eldest daughter to the hospital where she works, my wife, before she lets her go, she will place her hands on her and say, be favored, anak. So that's always every day, because I give them a ride to their work. Every time she gonna let go, our eldest daughter, she gonna hold them in her hands and she gonna say, be well favored, anak. And then she will just watch her enter that main gate in the hospital where she works. And then in the afternoon when we pick her up, how is your day? It's not so good. There are some patients who reject me, there are some out of that, and then it's happened. But still, I feel blessed. You see? And then and that's what God is saying here. You will be highly favored. And in verse 2, in all these blessings, you read that in the following verses, I think up to verse 13. All these blessings shall come upon you and overtake you. Did you see that when you're driving, somebody overtake you? Sabi ng Panginoon, if you obey me, lalagpasan ko pa yan. Ano? And if you have a business, how much is your capital for the business? 1,000. Okay, I'm expecting a 200% return. Maging 2,000 yung 1,000. Para sinasabi ng God, I'm gonna make it 4,000. It's just like overtaking you. Sabi niya, because you what? You obey the voice of the Lord your God. Now look at the opposite of obedience. The curses, merong curse. And that's why you see people, no matter how they try in life, they are not moving forward. They are regressing. Okay? Because what? Because they are disobedient. Look at verse 15. But it shall come to pass, mangyayari nga, if you do not obey the voice of the Lord your God, to observe carefully all His commandments and His statutes, which I command you today, that all these curses will come upon you and overtake you. And if you will read the verses after verse 15, and all the curses that He listed are terrible curses. Ang mayroong isang sinabi doon na, you will plant a vineyard, but your enemies are the one enjoying the harvest. You will build a house for yourself and your family, but it is not you who gonna dwell in that house. You will work and work, but you will not profit anything. It is because God is withholding the blessing because of disobedience. Okay, and then we find out, that's why when Joshua said, I will end with I'm about to end. This is moreover, all these curses shall come upon you and pursue and overtake you. Mag-overtake them. I'm jumping. I have to finish. So when Joshua said, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord," what he is saying is, from childhood, I've learned to know Him, to obey Him, to love Him. And no wonder he was designated by Moses to be his assistant. And no wonder Joshua can look in the eyes of the people, millions of them at that time. He can look at them and says, "But as for me and my family, we will serve the Lord," because they have seen it in their lives, in his life, and in the lives of his family. So it's not the decision must come out of your mouth to serve the Lord. Going back to these verses, it says, "Therefore fear the Lord," and then in the last part, "But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord." So Joshua is saying, and I have to read that on my notes. Are you still there? "But as for me and my house," the contrasting word "but," that B-U-T, gives the sense that Joshua was determined on this course, no matter what anyone else thought, ano man na iniisip ng kapwa niya. His relationship with God was not based on any man, but on the Lord alone. And he would serve God no matter what anyone else did. Joshua's decision meant hesitation has gone. Hindi ko na iisipin na sa linggo ba, mahal ko pa ang Panginoon, or next week ba, I will know. He's already done with that hesitation. He is already firm. We will serve the Lord. Joshua's decision meant he lived above the evil influence of others. Hindi siya gagaya. And sometimes you wonder, why is it that our neighbor has a lot of good things in the big house, nice car, and they have it looks like they have a lot of properties, but they are not attending church. So what? So what if their house is much bigger, they look more happy, they look more prosperous? If they don't have God, sooner or later, all of those things will not mean anything. But if you have God and you have just little, and you are happy with that little because of your God, then so be it. So Joshua says, whether I have much or I don't have much, as long as I have Him, we will continue to serve Him. And then he openly made the declaration of his faith in God. Okay, you choose your own. But me, my family, we will continue to serve God. I will, for this reason, and this is Paul, for this reason I also suffer these things. There should come a time in our life that whatever happens, we can say this with Paul. For this reason I also suffer these things. He suffered these things. He was abandoned. He was imprisoned. Okay, and he was being cruelly treated by other people in the place where he was, in all of those other sufferings that he went through. He says, I suffered these things. So the Christian life has what? The Christian life has sufferings. And it is not to scare you, but that's the reality of it. Okay, Christian life without suffering is something that you should doubt. Because we will always go through difficulties in this life. That's what he's saying. But look at this. Nevertheless, I'm not ashamed. Kahit na hindi ako nahihiya. Sabi niya. For I know, sabi niya, I know whom I have believed. Kilala ko kung sino yung pinaniniwalaan ko. And I am persuaded, buong-buo sa isip ko, sa buhay ko, that He is able to keep what I have committed to Him until that day. Not only my soul, not only my eternity, but also the lives of my family. I have committed it to God, and God is able to keep all of these things that He has given me. And I know Him, and I am persuaded, so whatever happens, I don't understand a lot of things in this life, but I can say, I am persuaded, I believe, that He is able to keep me. And what He promised, He said, what I have committed to Him until that day. So, going back to Joshua, as for me in my house, you never give up on your faith. Never give up on your faith. Never give up on your faith. Life sometimes is hard. There are times, but I will say this before I say this one. You know the person who brought me to church? My best friend in college. I was in fourth year college. When I got saved, I was invited to a church like this. My best friend, Ramon, here they say it Raymond, but it's Ramon. He's my neighbor. He's the one who brought me to church. He's the one who introduced me to the faith, to this faith. And I told him, I will not go to that Bible study if you will not pick me up. And our Bible study is every Thursday. This was when we were in college, every Thursday afternoon. I told him, I'm not going to go to that church, to that Bible study if you will not pick me up, because I do not know anybody there except you. I don't have friends there. It's only you that I know in that group. So for about 8 or 10 months, every Thursday, he will be in the door of our house and say, Ed, it's time. Okay, he's carrying his Bible. He said, Ed, it's time. And then I will walk with him. I will walk with him to the church where we do, to that place where we're doing our Bible study. And but then what happened is, after a few months, I haven't seen him in church. I haven't seen him attending church. So I said, what happened to him? Okay, so I visited him in their house, which is probably about a kilometer from our house. In Manila, you just walk. We don't have cars. And when I found him that night, right there in front of their house, he is again back smoking. He didn't even throw it, because sometimes they will throw. Once they see you, they will throw it because they don't want to see you doing that again. Okay? And not only that, when we were talking, I was asking him, how come you're not? I can smell in his breath that he is drunk. Amoy Chico. Alam niyo Chico? He's drunk. So I was thinking to myself, this is the person who brought me to the Bible study. I will not know Jesus Christ except for this person. But now look at his. He went back and now he is worse. He is not only doing what he was doing before, and he is drunk, and he is talking to me as if nothing is happening. But in my mind, I'm just saying, when I was walking away, I feel so bad. Because he's my best friend, he's the one who took me to church. And what I'm saying to myself, I'm not going back. I'm not going back. I already felt the touch of God in my life. Binago na ako ng Panginoon. I'm not going back. I'm not going back to that kind of life. He already delivered me from that kind of life. I'm not going back. And even if I don't see Him anymore in church, I will still go on. And until to this day, I don't know where He is. I don't know what happened to Him. But all I know is, God has been good to me. God has been good to me, and I'm not going back. I'm not going back to that kind of life where God has rescued me. So in our life, it's designed for God. Sometimes it's tough, because there are a lot of other things, but then those other things in our life, we can give it to Jesus and we can serve Him. Amen.
Amen.
Hallelujah. Lord, we thank you, God, for your word. We thank you, God, for your goodness. We love you, God. Cause us, God, to be like Joshua, to serve you, God, with our families, Lord. In Jesus' name.